We are live. We're live.
We're live.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night live. Today we have a special guest. We have Remi from Rem's Family Farm, and we're going to be talking about hunting and fishing, which is something that I don't have a lot of experience. Actually, I don't have any experience with hunting, but we do enjoy fishing. But I know our friend Rob here, he has some hunting experience. But the reason why we brought Remi on, we were talking about, starting out homesteading. And I thought, what a good opportunity for people that maybe don't have land or don't have the opportunity to have livestock. How could they bring in meat in their freezer and things like that? And I thought, well, let's talk about hunting and fishing, because if you don't have that ability to have livestock, obviously hunting and fishing could be a way to fill the freezer. So we thought we'd bring Remi on and just he could share his experience. And if any of you guys have questions for him or for any of us about, maybe how much he brought in or licensing, now is a great opportunity to do that. So welcome, Remi.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Hope everyone is doing great.
One thing that I was looking at your channel, actually, you said that you had brought in like 1,700 pounds, I think, of food for the year. So I'm wondering how much of that was from your hunting experience and stuff.
I had to check before I came in because I knew this question was going to come. It was a good fishing year. It was actually my best fishing year ever, and I did about 125 pounds of fish. And it was, it is. It was a bad hunting year, and I did 125 pounds of meat. So it always depends on where you're living, what kind of lakes, rivers you have access to, what kind of hunting you can do in your area. And for me here, deer hunting is something I love doing, but it's something that I have to travel to do because the area where I live, all the deer are gone, and like there's no deer hunting around. Like it's not legal to hunt deer here.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Wow.
The zones are closed.
So do you do more like deer hunting or moose hunting, or
it's kind of the best hunting to do for me here is small game, because you can just go get a license and go hunt grouse, rabbits, and that's very cheap. I mean, you can get like a hunting gun for maybe like $150 to $200. The license is about $25, and that's something you can do by just going for a walk. When people think about hunting, they'll think about, okay, well, they hear that it's expensive. You have to get this, you have to get that, but it's not any worse than if you just start homesteading. Because if you start homesteading, you have to get the chicken coop, you have to get the feed, the feeders, the waterers, and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing if you start hunting. You have to get the rifle. You have to get. I mean, you're gonna go for a walk. You're gonna get dressed, so you don't really need to buy extra clothes. Just have something orange on you, because that's the law here, at least in New Brunswick, and I know it's pretty much the same thing everywhere in Canada. Now, that being said, like I said, here in my area, grouse and rabbits are pretty abundant. So we can just go for a walk, walk for an hour, and get 4 or 5, maybe 6 grouse if I'm lucky. My favorite hunting is deer, but deer is something that you have to travel about 3 hours from here to get to a decent hunting spot. Wow. And then if you're not there every day to feed and try to draw the deer in, then you're just basically walking in a land where it's just luck. You're going after luck, which is still fun because I love being in the woods, right? We got a deer last year, and it was the first deer we got in 10 years. So it's not something that happens every year. But I know some people in the States can get 5-10 deers. It's easy for them to just go for a walk and, hey, there's a deer, boom, and you bring it in the freezer, and that's it. Now, moose is something different. It is a very popular hunt here in New Brunswick, but it is a draw. You have to apply, and then you have like 1 out of 10 chances roughly to get drawn, and people go in groups, so you have a little bit more chances than that to go. But it's not always the case. Like last year, I was able to go with my buddy Serge, which he kind of asked me last minute. The year before, we were even more lucky. My mom got her tag, and I got mine. And we usually go my mom, my dad, my brother, and I. So we ended up with 2 moose, and my parents don't eat much
Nice.
wild meat. So I ended up with roughly 450 pounds of meat. So in that case, it was
Wow.
That's
really worth it. Yeah, and the meat is good. I mean, the
So
kids
Brad
love it.
Plowman is actually Brad Plowman's asking if you butcher your own meat.
Not yet. It is in my future plans. Of course, it would be a lot cheaper if I did it myself. I know Darren from Thorhaven Farm has a cold room where he can hang the meat and butcher it himself. I want to try this year for the first time with black bears. Black bears are really, really abundant here, and I feel like if I missed my cuts, it'd be not as big of a deal as if I did it with deer and moose. Because moose, if you get your tag every 5 to 10 years, you want to make sure you have the best meat possible out of it. Same with deer. I mean, you can go hunting every year, but the chances of me getting a deer if I'm just going like almost blindfolded in the woods, it's just I'm going for a walk, not feeding them, not trying to draw them in or anything, and um, chances are I'm not going to get anything. So bear, I can just go behind my house. Of course, I don't want to be too close to the house because I'm going to draw a bear in. You feed them for about a week, and then they get the habit of coming every time. And we're allowed to bait black bears here, so they're very easy to get. And hopefully, I'll be able to get one, and I'll practice my butchering skill on them. Moose season, yeah, it
Well, you
is
can do
now.
it, Remi. I'm sure you
Well, I've done not the pigs. I've done pigs. I skinned the pigs. I didn't butcher them. I've done chickens and I've done rabbits. Uh, I've seen a lot of videos. I guess you have to start somewhere, right? It's pretty much the same thing as with chickens. I had to start
Yep.
somewhere. Now I'm pretty good with doing the whole thing. But I guess if I try, I'll never know until I try, right? So I wanna
That's
put my
That's
head in there. Yeah. There's a lot of videos and tutorials out there on the web anyway, so I'm pretty sure I can learn. But yeah, the moose
In
the
Ontario-
moose season used to be 3 days, and now it's 5 days.
Yeah, in Ontario it's different. Here we have a point system for moose now. So you'll be like, I'll be lucky to draw a moose tag. Maybe I'll get one, maybe I won't for the next 10 years, maybe longer. Whereas
Okay.
before you could apply as a gang, so we would hunt in a group, and you would always be able to get a calf tag. Everybody would get a calf tag, but getting a bull tag would be like, if you had 15 guys, you get one. Well, now the system's changed, so it's a lot more difficult for us where we live. Moose, deer, and bear are abundant, and we found the best way for us to hunt them was in a group. So we're allowed to use dogs here to hunt. So there's quite a few people that we hunt with that they use hounds, and we brought our little dog. It only ever ran moose, but we used the dogs and a group of guys and set up, and the hunt was much more effective. Like what Remi said, where you're standing and waiting for a deer, your chances are really low. But when you're pushing the bush and moving animals around, you have a lot more success. So we that's how we've done it in the past. Our moose hunts up here, for years we didn't have moose in our area, kind of like what Remi has with whitetail. And then what was it, about 7-8 years ago, all of a sudden the moose were all over the place. So we did our first moose hunt as our deer gang went to hunt moose, so that in deer season we wouldn't be pushing moose around. And for 2 years in a row, the moose hunt was over in the first hour and a half it opened. We filled the tags. So it works out pretty well. And even splitting between all that many guys, you can put a lot of food away. And it just increases your chance of success, right? So
there's a lot of twins up our area too.
there is a lot of twin moose and deer in our area, so there's usually always a good supply of fawns and whatever else. So yeah.
In here, if you get your tag, you're allowed to pretty much anything, as long as it's a moose, calf, cow, bull. It's all legal as long as you have your tag. And it used to be whoever gets a tag is the only one that can shoot. I think it changed like maybe 15 years ago, where you're allowed to get a second shooter, but of course, second shooter has to buy like another license. You're both buying a license on the same tag, but you can have a designated hunter with you that has to be with you all the time. At least it gives you more chance to bring the animal down without hurting him or missing. Because this year I was hunting with my buddy Selge, and unfortunately I shot two big bulls, and I know I hit them. I was never able to find them, and I know a lot of people were pissed at me because of it. But I mean, after a while, you look for 2-3 hours and you see the trail going, but no more blood on the ground. Chances are the moose is a very, very strong animal. He's going to survive. He's going to make it. The first bull I ever got, it was like a nice, medium-sized bull with maybe 36 inches rack. I bring it to the butcher, and when I go get the meat, he told me, he said, I had to remove about maybe 50, 75 pounds of meat because there was like an infection because someone shot it the year before.
Wow.
So someone shot it the year before and it was still alive and it was still doing well. So, the one I miss, I find comfort in knowing that probably someone's going to get him next year or maybe even the year after that. Like, it's not, if he was still running after 2 hours of searching, going a straight line, chances are he's still out there running.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that happens a lot here too. I mean, you don't want it to happen, obviously, but it does. It happens. For us, like I haven't hunted in a few years, and I'm looking at getting back at it. But so this year, I bought all my licenses and whatnot because it is an excellent way to add protein to the freezer. And much like yourself, we like to do fishing too. There's a few years that we didn't buy a lot of red meat because we had venison, which is deer, whitetail deer. We had got in deer season. We had moose, which we had gotten moose in the rifle season of moose. And then we did small games because in Ontario, you can hunt small games usually the same time as your deer and moose hunt. So when we weren't sitting in a watch for a moose, we'd be out hunting with the shotgun for partridge and grouse and pheasant and whatever else. And that filled up the freezer for us for a few years. We did well at it. It took a little bit to get used to cooking, but much like grass-fed beef, Jenny figured it out, so I didn't starve.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff in the wild that you can go and get and put in the freezer. I mean, we're talking about hunting, but it's the same with fishing.
Yeah,
I know you guys in Ontario, one of the things that amazed me when I went there for the conference last year is you have a lot of lakes. So I'm guessing the fishing must be good down there.
The fishing is awesome, yeah.
Yeah, you probably have like those small and big mouth bass and trout and landlocked salmon and stuff like that. Here, the thing is, we have a lot of native First Nation reserve, and they put a lot of nets. And in all the small streams, brooks, rivers, the fish that goes up are usually small. So back in the days, yes, you could go out and get like maybe 25, 30 trout. They'd be 10 to 15 inches. But in the past maybe 20 years, everything went down. And there's a lot of people that say that it happened because of a specific company that I'm not going to talk about, spreading stuff and killing the vegetation and all that kind of stuff, and all that goes in the streams and rivers. And but anyway, the fish is not as abundant as it used to be. For example, last year I went with my son. I did a few bridges where I used to go back in the days, where I would cast maybe 10, 15 trout at every spot, and I caught 2 trout in the whole day. Like there wasn't enough fish for even bother. When you catch two trout about that big, I mean, you're not getting a big lunch for the family.
Yeah.
But luckily for us, lately we've been having more and more striped bass coming in, especially at the beach. And I have a few friends now that I know since last year that have boats, and I know just a perfect spot to go. And I can go. Thing is, I'm allowed 3 striped bass per day,
Okay.
and every family member is allowed 3 in possession. And I was told by someone I called at Canada Ocean or whatever, Ocean Canada, and it told me that I'm allowed to catch 3, bring them home, and kind of give it to a family member. So I can give it to my son, I can give it to my girlfriend, I can give it as long as I don't have more, because I have a family of 7. As long as I don't have more than 21 in my freezer, I am legal. So I can go bring a son, bring 2 kids, 3 kids, go fish. We're allowed 3 each per day, as long as we don't have more than 21 in our freezer total. So you go at the beginning of the season, you'll catch 1 or 2. You can cook them here and there, have a few meals. But at the end of the season, you have 21 in your freezer and you're legal. And 21, I mean, you eat fish once a week, once every second year. That's free meal right there.
Yeah.
I mean, striped bass, you get a striped bass, they're 5 pounds.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good meal.
For us, we used well, when like our before we moved to the farm, we lived on a house that was on the water, so it was a little river that goes through, and it had a lot of catfish. And a lot of people out here don't like catfish, but I was taught from some relatives and a neighbor how to skin them and clean them properly. So I would always fillet them out. I'd freeze the fillets, and then we'd have a fish fry, like deep fried catfish fillets were excellent. And we were able to, you're catching on average 5-6 pound catfish, and you can catch. There's almost no limit on them, so we would catch, quite a few over the summer, and it really helped. It was a lot of fun too. There's nothing more fun than reeling in one of those things, because they put up a pretty good fight.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've never had catfish.
Yeah.
One more thing, we can fish here in like if you go at the beach, you can just take a boat and go maybe like 100 feet offshore. You have mackerel, you have cod,
Yeah.
you have flatfish, and you have the striped bass. And there's probably a few more that I don't necessarily know about. But I mean, I, I think I ended up with about 15 pounds of mackerel, because we're allowed. I think it used to be 60, but now it's 20 per family member. I went with my son once, and I don't know if you saw the video, but we kind of got caught in the storm, and I thought it was it. I thought it was going to die right there. The motor broke down. We were in the middle of the sea. The waves were coming in. The rain. We couldn't see anything, and it was scary. But it turned out okay after a while. But you know, just the fishing part of it. Like if I don't take the negative of it and I just think about the fishing, we got there and was like, put the line in the water, 1 mackerel. Put the line in the water, the second mackerel. Okay, we'll take a mackerel and put it as bait and throw it out in the water for bass. Boom, 1 bass, 2 bass, 3 bass. Okay, I'm done. And give the rod to my son and go ahead. And he starts reeling it in, and then okay, Dad, take it over because I'm tired. All right, I'll bring it in a little bit. Then you tag along and keep doing like it was. It was fun. Blast.
I never caught one of those striped bass, but I just seen Dan put a comment up that he's caught them up to over 2 feet long. That's a big fish.
Yeah, and here the rules are they have to be between 20 and 26 inches long.
Okay. Yeah.
Higher than that, you have to throw them back, and smaller than that, you have to put them back in the water. 26 inches is a little bit over 2 feet. So yeah.
Wow.
And they get big, they get fat, and like you'll make a fillet out of them. And I mean, like I said, I have a family with 5 kids. One side is enough for a meal.
Really?
Wow,
Yeah.
if I keep everything, the bones and all that, and you scratch through the bones, yeah, it is enough for one meal. It gives you like a nice, decent, um, fillet, and it's
Yeah.
actually pretty good.
Yeah. We have, I guess, the delicacy around here, and I know that Matt had commented, I seen his comment come earlier, is trout. We have lake trout, we've got brown trout, speckled trout, splake, which is like a ministry hybrid fish that they stock. Um, and I think we've been pretty lucky, Jenny and myself, to have been privy to some of the trout lakes, and some of them we found. And out here, I think they're an awesome fish to catch. It's just finding the location, finding the right weather, temperature,
They're
and
very finicky.
they're very finicky, but they are absolutely phenomenal. Matt's commenting, "Where are they?" And that's the other thing about here.
You don't share.
You don't share your trout lake spots. Yeah,
You keep your spots, yeah.
yeah. You hide your trail on the way out.
But that's one of the flaw, I guess, about fishing in the sea. Everyone leaves at the same spot, so you're all at the marina. You leave at the same time at the high tides. So whoever catches the most fish, the next time you'll know where. Like you have to follow them and go at the same spot they were. It's
Yeah. See, for us, it's you're backpacking in, or you're on four-wheeler. Like there's one lake we go to, Jenny, and we haven't been there in a few years, but I mean, it is nasty to get into this place, but it's worth it. It's always been worth it. But you tell one person, and then they tell somebody, and then next thing you know, your fishing hole is fished out, and then you've lost your source. So we kind of keep those tight to the chest. But, I could see how that's challenging for you guys on the ocean. You just can't do it that way.
Well, the thing is, I'm pretty sure the fact that it's coming from the ocean, the fish, if there's none at that specific spot, there's probably none left in the ocean, right? Like, it's not like it's going up a stream or in a lake or in a specific pond or a specific pool where if everyone goes there, there's not going to be any more.
Yeah.
Sea should be enough left for everyone.
Yeah.
Are they getting any clams or anything?
Yeah, that's a good point. We are where you guys are. Can you guys go digging for clams and that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yep, we have clams. I went last year in a spot I've never been before, and I'm never gonna go again. It was so muddy. I kept, like, every step I took, I had to struggle to remove my foot from the mud. I couldn't even dig in to get clams. I know another spot though, a few kilometers just further down the road. That's where I'm gonna try to go in the spring. But then that too, I think you're allowed 100 clam per person.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to bring the kids, and they're allowed 100 each.
Yeah.
As long as they have their own bucket and their own shovel. So it doesn't have to be like this big fancy thing. As long as they have a bucket and a shovel, and they can somewhat like give a proof that we're actually digging, they're good to go. Like even if they see you giving them your clams, they were there, they had their bucket, they count. So for me, like that's 700 clams that I can go fish.
Wow.
So Remi, the spot that you were at where it was muddy, were you just wearing waders?
Yeah, I had the ones that go with the straps here and goes up to the chest.
Okay, because so for dock season, for when I do removals and even installs, I have waders as well, but they're neoprene, and basically the neoprene almost makes it so that you can't really sink into the mud, or if you do, it's easy to pull yourself back out. Just wanted to let you know that. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah,
But the other spot I have is not as bad.
Yeah. We're a family. My mom's family is from down in Digby, Nova Scotia area. So we went down visiting relatives, and they took us digging for clams. And I think that was probably one of the events that both Jenny and myself we were digging for cherrystone clams and razor clams and all the different ones that we'd never done before. And that was probably one of the best experience we've ever had. It was a blast. We really enjoyed it. Our daughter at the time was a couple of months old
In a car seat.
in a car seat.
So you'd put them out.
So as we'd move along the beach, we'd be hauling the car seat with it, and then follow the tide back out. I thought that was just the most that I could have asked for. And we put we were filling milk crates full of them. Like we all caught our limit, and okay, my cousin counted them all. Okay, we've hit our limit for today. It's time to head back, and that was just amazing. I thought that was so neat because we don't have that here.
They hold a lot of proteins, but the thing is, once you remove the shell, they're not that big.
No, yeah.
So I had about 30 clams last year, and I don't even think I had a pound of food.
Yeah.
You know, it's not much.
Yeah.
But it's still, if you take crackers and cheese whiz and you cook them and you have a little salad with that, and it's still a pretty decent meal and fun time to have as a family. Just go and eat clams.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah, cook them on a fire and
yeah, a lot of fun. Oh, somebody, Dan's asking you, Remi, do you take advantage of the smelts?
No, because I'm not really equipped, and it's not something that I am very. I don't know much about them. We usually we'll go ice fishing for smelt. It's usually January, February, but this year we had a few warmer days, and I didn't really trust the ice. And I don't mind ice fishing if I know the ice is strong enough. Like if I see a truck going through, like I know I'm safe to go by foot.
Yeah.
But if I don't see that, I'm like, I don't know. Like I might just stay on the ground where it's solid and safe. And because it always happens every year, there's always like one shanty that just goes away with the current, and you have to call 911 to get help. And I don't want that happening to me, especially not when I bring the kids. So if I don't have at least a good 1.5 to 2 feet of ice, I'm not going. Sorry, I'm not going.
I'm not into it either. I definitely can see where you're coming from with that. We've done ice fishing in the past. I just think the ice conditions aren't really the same as what they used to be. We don't have the same weather that we're used to. I mean, it's a different story. Like when we lived in Labrador, there was all kinds of ice, but this year they have nothing. They had to cancel the Canes Quest snowmobile run because there was nothing. So I think,
someone fell in.
Yeah, I know it's just a lot different than it used to be. But have you tried fly fishing before, Remi, out there?
I have. I bought all my fly fishing gear maybe 10 years ago, and it was pretty much at the same time as the salmon became almost extinct, and we were not allowed to keep them anymore. Well, the first year, back in the days, it used to be 5 tags. You were allowed 4 or 5 salmon in a year.
Yeah.
I bought my license, and that year was only 2. I didn't catch any. The next year, it was done. Although I still managed to go a few times trout fishing, which it's fun. I love it. I bought a rod for my son, and I showed him a little bit last summer. It's something that I love doing. It's just there's not really many places here that you can just go and have the space to really do the motion and all that kind of stuff. We have the Restigouche River, which is known internationally. There's people from the States coming here for fishing and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for us, we can't fish on it. It's April 15 to May 15. We can fish up to a certain point, and then after that, it's just like little few pools where you can fish, and it's not even enough to mention.
Yeah. I tried fly fishing for the first time in Labrador, and I had no clue how it was done. And I bought all the kit, and we packed it on the 4-wheeler, and we went into wade in these creeks and stuff. And I thought that was a really it was different than normal fishing. Like I felt like it took a lot more skill than I was used to. And we were so proud when you'd catch a little fish that big, but that was a lot of fun. And out here in Ontario, it's done, but not to the same extent.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people can do their own flies.
Yeah,
I have the gear here and stuff to do my own, but I'm not as good because you have to be very
Yeah.
talented with your fingers and into the details.
My brother made some.
I caught fish with flies I made myself, but not like I'm not a professional. I'm not gonna sell them because I don't have enough skills. Um, there's also the fact that, like I said, the only thing you can pretty much fish with fly fishing here is trout. You're allowed to fish salmon, but you have to throw them back in the water. So for me, I'm not gonna go spend a whole day gas and food and all that kind of stuff.
exactly.
Go
Yeah.
and grab a fish and have to throw it out.
Yeah.
You can also fly fish for striped bass, but the chances of you getting one are not that high. So that's pretty much the same thing. I'd rather go with live bait where you have much more chances to catch something. But for trout, it is fun. And once you learn how to do like the motion, you
Yeah.
keep your arm at 90 degrees and just go back and forth until. And I know some people that can be here, just go like side to side and put their line exactly where they want to. I
Yeah.
am far from that point. I can't do that.
Me neither.
Wow.
But I know that my brother made his own flies, and we trialed them just on some of the little trout lakes and stuff around here.
Uh-huh.
So he would make them with when we'd go fishing for partridge. So out here we have a couple different kinds, or sorry, hunting for partridge. When we shoot one, we use the meat obviously, and then all the feathers he'd get us to save, and he would make flies out of the partridge feathers, and they worked amazing for trout.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same colors as the mosquitoes, I think, or something similar, and that's why the fish love
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, it was really good. We liked it. I think small games, like you said, is really the nicest way to get into hunting. I mean, it's a fun activity. It's the cheapest way to do it in Ontario here too. Like a 3-year small games license is like $12 or something. I mean, it's hard to beat. But you've got rabbit, you've got rabbit, you've got partridge, you've got help me out here on this one. Pheasant, you've got grouse. So we got Hungarian spruce, and then there's one other kind that I don't remember offhand.
Rough
And
grouse.
then coyotes fall under that one as well. So you can hunt coyotes too, which is good for predators and stuff. But in some areas of Ontario, there is like bounties for coyotes, so you get paid up to $30 for them. I haven't checked recently, but so that was neat. It's a good way to do it.
Partridge is really beginner friendly.
Yeah, partridge is kind of the most beginner friendly because you could just buy like $100 shotgun and try it, and
they stand there.
yeah, they're pretty easy where we are. Yeah, they're easy to spot. They're easy to get into it, and it really gets you hooked into it. Now, I mean, for us, like we found that the hunting side was more productive than the fishing because the fishing side was a lot of like we didn't do as well. You put a lot more time in for a lot less reward we are, but maybe it's different where you guys are, where the ocean's a little more plentiful.
The ocean is so close. Like it's a 15-minute drive, and for us, every time we don't know what to do as a family, we'll just go for a drive. I'll bring the rods. I'll bring the bait. The kids are gonna go swimming. I'll be there fishing with my rod in the water. Not a single problem in the world, just laying there, relaxing. And that's one of the things, like people tell me hunting and fishing is expensive. Well, it depends the way you put it.
That's right.
I know some people that go every year in Cuba. I know some people that go every year Las Vegas. They'll go gamble at Las Vegas. They'll go visit New York. They'll go do this. They'll go do. I don't want to do those things. I want to be relaxing in the woods, relaxing on the side, like next to the beach.
Yeah.
To go there, let the kids have fun. And even if the kids are swimming, you have your line in the water, you can still catch some fish because I've done it before. Okay, kids, it's time to get out of the water. If there's a fish going all like left and right, just get out for a second. I'll bring it in, and then you can go back in the water, and that's all fun. And Deep Roots Landscaping had a good point there. Knowing the hatch time of all the bugs is key. It's true. If you go fishing, fly fishing in the spring, look around, see what bugs are flying next to the water, and usually if you have something similar to that, that's where it's gonna bite.
I love that in the comments here. We've got Deep Roots Landscaping. That's Matt. He's got the experience fishing BC on here, so he'd be our fly fish guy. Then we got Dan talking about his experience in your area catching the other coast. So it's kind of neat that we've got those two guys in this chat providing some great
And they're
advice.
kind of local to here now.
And now they're local to here, yeah.
So it's
I guess
cool.
that means I'm going to have to show them at some point.
Where the secret spots are.
No, I'm not showing my secret.
And like I touched a little bit about the cost of doing all this. And, you know, I went moose hunting 2 years ago with my family. It's family time. It's time you spend. Even if I didn't go hunting, I would still want to be there. And you still have to eat. If you have a drink, you still have to pay for your drink, whether you're home or in the woods. The only thing you have to take for account is the license, the bullets, the gas if you're driving around. If you're going for a walk for grouse, it doesn't cost you any gas. If you're going for deer hunting, especially in my area, the way we do it is we'll drive to one place and we'll be like, okay, Dad goes that way, my brother goes that way, and I'll go that way. And at 12, we come back here for lunch and we head back to the woods after that, and we'll tell each other all the stories about what we saw and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really cost much. If you go moose hunting, then you'll be driving a little bit more, especially here, because usually people have their spots. Yeah. And the ones that don't have their spots will be driving around in cuttings and stuff like that. But if you spend $200 in a week, that's a lot of money. And that's like really the max you'll be spending. My parents already have the trailer. They're already spending all their time in the wood. Then you'll pay for the butcher if you don't know how to butcher your stuff yourself. 430 pounds of meat for about $200 plus maybe $80 for the license here.
Yeah.
That's less than $1 a pound.
That's right. That's the way we looked at it too. There's some guys that go crazy, Remi? Like, you know, like run out, they buy a hunting and fishing magazine and they get the best of the best of the best. And then they are spending all this money on feeding animals and this and that. And I mean, that's what's expensive. For us, I did it years. It is very much a family thing. It's a tradition. I hadn't hunted in the last few years because my hunting gang was my uncles and myself and my brother. And all my uncles have passed. And Roy was the farmer that we would hunt with. I considered him an uncle. He passed away as well. So my brother and me haven't hunted in a while. It's just, you know, and this year we're getting back into it with cousins and that, but it was always the time, 2 weeks of the year, we would take our deer hunt up there. And it didn't matter if you shot a deer or not. It was just spending time, sharing stories, passing on that knowledge. It's very much a tradition. And I think that when you get into hunting and that, like here, it's something that's passed down. I mean, my rifles that I carry, they were my great grandfathers or my grandfathers, and now my uncle's passed, and I'm carrying his rifles, and you know, and then when I pass, somebody will carry mine, and that's just kind of one of the ways that we've done hunting in our family. I don't know if it's similar to yours, but it's very much a tradition for us.
Yeah, it totally is. If I look on my mom's side, all my uncles are hunters.
Yeah.
Even my like my aunt's husbands, my uncle on the women's side, they're all hunters as well. So they all married hunters. On my dad's side, they're all hunters. I remember being a kid and maybe 4 or 5 years old, and my dad would leave for a week, come back with a bunch of deers in the trailer in the back of the truck, and would take pictures with them. I have pictures, from when I was so young I couldn't even speak, and I have pictures of the deers, and they had a bunch of bucks in the back of the trucks, and that's how it happens. That's how you get. It's the same thing as being a homesteader, right? Like you're a homesteader, chances are your kids are gonna want to be homesteaders. Some don't. Same as hunters. Some don't want to hunt.
It's true.
That's right.
If it's something that you're raised in, like I know some people that would love to eat the meat, they just don't want to go out there and shoot, and that's fine. I mean, all right, I'll go with you. Like Selge was his problem last year. He doesn't mind eating the meat, doesn't mind cutting, butchering, whatever. He just doesn't want to do the killing part.
Yeah, that's my dad. My dad's a butcher, and dad doesn't care for guns. It's not his thing. He's not into hunting, but he always was at the camp, or he'd show up, and if somebody had shot a deer or whatever, dad would come up and butcher it for them or whatnot. And that was his way of being part of it, even though he didn't care for the other portion.
Yeah. To answer the question, in New Brunswick, every crown land is free to go unless it was sprayed, or there might be specific reasons why it's not. If there's a cabin close or close to a village or whatever, private properties are legal if they're not marked. If they see you on their private property, all they can do is ask you to leave, and then you leave. But if it's not written, if there's no signs, they can't really reprimand you for being on their land. There's nothing they can do except ask you to leave. And it is a good thing, because sometimes you go in the woods, you're hunting on a crown land, and you don't realize, but you're now in the private property, and you meet someone who's like, hey, this is my property. Can you mind?
Yeah.
Just sure, no problem. I didn't know. Sorry, and you just go. And usually people are nice. There's only the moose hunting that people are not really nice. They tend to block the roads and claim their territories, but they're not allowed to.
Yeah. Now, Dan's brought up a good point here. So he had said earlier in Ontario, unless you own land, but here in Ontario, you can hunt crown land too. It's the same thing. Crown land is everybody's. The difference is that a lot of crown land here is landlocked by private land. So you can't get to it without crossing somebody else's property. Now, there's been instances over the years where if you talk to the people that own the private land beforehand, and especially now with the moose hunt, and let's say you draw a tag and you say, listen, guys, I'd like to hunt the crown land in behind yous. I have a tag. Chances are that group is going to, if you know what I mean, you're polite or whatever else, that group may not have a tag. They're going to be more apt to say, yeah, sure, but how about we all hunt together? And that moose hunting is something that might be a possibility for Dan there, but for sure, trespassing in Ontario is a big deal. Like for us, we have a farm. Our neighbors are farmers as well. None of us have really hunted in the last few years, but there's dogs running through the properties at hunting season. I bring the cattle into the barnyard now because last year I left them out in the field and people's dogs were chasing my cows through fences and actually herded them home. And trespassing is becoming more of an issue, but I think it's more of a people are less. How do I describe
They're
it?
more entitled.
That's right. People feel more entitled nowadays. And I mean, I'm unfortunately that grumpy person that they run into sometimes, and they get a nasty message from me whenever that happens. But just because I know that when I was younger, I would never trespass on somebody's property without speaking with them first. Right.
Yeah. Here, it might just be the way I was raised or the way the people are. If I get near property where I see a house or a cabin and someone is there, especially if I'm driving with my ATV, I'll be driving slow and I'll ask them when I get there. If it's in the middle of the woods, usually, like I said, unless they're marked, they can't really stop you from going. Now, I'm not saying I'll do it on purpose to go, but if if the road goes there, I'll drive, and it's not as big of a deal here. I guess it's a way that people see things. Like I said, I wouldn't go next to a house or a cabin or something like that, but usually people don't mind if you cross their land. My dad has a 75 acres land, and they're grooming the whole thing in the winter for skidoos. he doesn't really mind as long as they don't destroy the stuff, and it's actually a good thing for him. He likes it because he can go walk the dog, and
Yeah.
he enjoys it as much.
Yeah. In our area, Dan brought up a good point. People are really unfriendly, and yeah, he's probably right. There's quite a few. I mean, I know firsthand that you get enough bad experiences with entitled people, then all of a sudden your tune changes towards other people crossing property for access or whatever else, right? So that's definitely a situation up here for sure. I know myself too. We've had people ask to hunt, and I just flat out tell them no, just because I've had too many experiences where people come up and hunt on the farm, and I allow them to hunt because I'm not hunting that year, and they leave their stuff everywhere and this and that. Trail cams 2 years later, and trailers left behind. So I just say, you know what, no hunting, and that's just unfortunately the way that some of it is. I know the crown land though here, there's so much that you can access without crossing someone's private. You can still do it. There's just there's less of it in our area. There's more of it in Northern Ontario, and I find that Northern Ontario, you have a better chance of drawing moose tags and deer tags. So I think for me, if I didn't have property to hunt, I would be heading that way, just because the tags and the chances are better. Like my bow hunt for moose, I hunt north of where Dan is. I hunt in Petawawa because there's north of Petawawa in between Mattawa and that, around the edge of Algonquin Park. There's all kinds of crown, and we would drive in there, and there's basically nobody, and we always did well that way.
Angie's saying that she thought you could hunt and fish on crown land, and it brings me to another point where here in New Brunswick, every water is free for all, but there's a little catch: the land or the ground underneath the water is not. So if I have a land and I don't want people to fish, I don't want people to walk on my land, I'm allowed to stop them from fishing as long as they're touching the ground. If they can take a boat, and I was told that by a police officer, and I was told the same thing by a forest ranger. If you can have a boat and make it there without touching the ground, or if you can have an helicopter dropping you in the middle of the lake, there's nothing they can do. There's a house not too far from here, about maybe 5 minutes up. I know some people that went there, even if they were not supposed to, at night, put a line in the water and catch some tremendous fish. But the owner doesn't want them to go. And I'm like, isn't it supposed to be like a free country where you're supposed to be able to go and fish? Every lake in Canada is supposed to be free for all. It's like, it's true, but not the land to get there. If you can get someone to drop you in a boat in the middle of the lake, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
I don't have a friend with an helicopter, unfortunately.
Expensive fishing trip with a helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a little bit more expensive. Yeah.
They break down a lot.
I had a friend of mine coming down a stream, and he got to a place where he had to not walk on the people's property, but there was a dog attached on a leash, and it was a sign, "Beware of dog." And he was afraid of the dog. It was like I don't know if it was a Rottweiler or a Doberman or something like that. And the dog looked really, really mad. And he's like, he asked the forest ranger, like, what happens if he attacks me and I have to defend myself? He's like, well, were you touching the ground? It's like, yeah, of course I was going down the river. Well, it's like, he's on his property. You can't do anything about it. If you get in a boat, just cross the property in a boat, not touching the ground at all, then you're good to go. It's crazy, but that's the way it is.
It's the same here. Waterways are open to everyone. I think it's all across Canada. You're right. I'm pretty sure it's everywhere, but the land is not.
Yeah. And that's kind of weird when you think about it.
It is.
I can fish, but I can't walk there.
Yeah. I know for us, Ontario's really changing too, because a lot of those camps and stuff around our area, I used to know just about everybody that had them or owned them, but they've changed hands in the last few years. And when you don't know anyone anymore, and you go and you travel the same trails that you've traveled for as long as you can remember, And some of them cross private or this and that, just the way the land got divided up. Every one of these new owners I find they hold things a little closer to the chest, and they're not as willing to share, or they're not as willing to, honor the trail systems, or they'll try and hide the fact that it's a concession road and that it could be a sticky problem. And I think it's going to get worse in the next few years before it gets better in our area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always think about whatever happens if the doom was to happen, and people are going to protect their stuff. And I feel like people are starting to protect now and not wanting to show as much. So chances are people are not going to let you on their property anymore.
That's right.
I mean, my dad never stopped anyone from going on his land.
Yeah.
He's got a trail going through, and people don't really make much messes. But what's fun is there's a little river passing by, plenty of fish. There's a few cuttings where there's a lot of moose. There's grouse all over the place, a few wild apple trees where the grouse love to go. And there's even like a water spring nearby, two actually on his property. That's a good thing to know if something ever happens, or even if you're just going for a walk hunting. You have water spring right there. You can just stop water. But we never really stopped anyone from going. But if something ever happens, we might have to.
Yeah. I think it's what do they call it now? Protectionism or whatever. I mean, there's more of that, and I think especially with all the stuff going on in the world, it goes back to homesteading too. Like knowing that you can hunt and fish to provide for yourself is just another one of those tools that you'd want to add to the chest, right?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, if you don't go all out, it'll be worth it. You can go and you usually wherever you go, whatever province you're in, you have a possession limit. You're allowed to hunt 6 per day, but you can't have more than 12 in the freezer. But if you go and hunt, and whatever you catch, you eat right away. You can go and get some more.
Yeah.
So you can do that with grouse, like you said, rabbits. Here we're also allowed to hunt ducks, but that's federal. It's controlled by the federal government, so you have to go to the post office and get your license there. You're allowed to hunt geese. There's another bird, I don't know the name. It's a little bit smaller. It looks kind of like a quail, but mixed between a quail and a grouse.
Partridge, ptarmigan, maybe. Where you might be, you might have some that are they that far south? I don't know, but we had ptarmigan up north when we were there. We loved that.
Yeah, I don't know what there are, but I know they're going down in the winter and coming back up in the spring.
Yeah. The bird hunting's big out here, especially because we got all those ponds and swamps and stuff, and geese, Canadian geese, and ducks, and that they're big time for people.
It's more sport.
Yeah, it's sport, I guess. I don't know. I don't like eating them. I find they're kind of greasy, the geese especially, and duck is not my favorite, so I don't hunt them myself. But they're definitely plentiful. If need be, I would be able to.
Yeah, and I know you guys in Ontario have the wild turkeys.
Oh man, they are a nuisance. Let me tell you.
They're just starting to come in now here.
Is the T-hand on there? I think he might be, but down at the Americans, I see the American shows there where they like hunting turkey and stuff like that, and almost every one they're like, oh, it's the smartest bird ever. But out here, oh my God, we're just polluted with those things. Like you could basically, if you had a good slingshot, you could probably hunt yourself a turkey where we are. We're just polluted with them. They had 2 litters this year, so usually there's only like 1 hatch of turkeys. This year we had 2, so we can count on any given day past our farm. We're counting 35 to 60 turkeys depending on the time of year. It's just unbelievable.
6 o'clock in the morning, and they're like
Yeah,
yelling at us from outside the window.
yeah, yeah.
I think what I was talking about could be snipes. It looks something similar to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Could be.
Why you go
Looks
for
like it.
crossbow versus
Oh,
black
right.
powder versus rifle?
So, do you guys have different seasons for different weapons? Let's say, like for us, we have a bow season, then we have a rifle season, and we have a black powder season.
The only thing that this would apply to would be deer season.
Really?
You're allowed
Okay.
to hunt deer with bow from the 1st of October until deer season ends. And with a rifle, it's usually the last full week of October and the first 3 weeks of November.
Yeah.
That's the only one. When it comes to moose or bear, if you have your license and you're legally allowed to hunt with a bow, they're both allowed.
Wow. So we have black powder rifles. So I have a black powder rifle for the black powder deer season. Then we have a bow season, so you can hunt with a crossbow or a regular bow for the longest amount of time, like right up till December 31st. And I think it starts in the end of September or 1st of October.
Moose is the first.
And moose is the 1st of October. You can start hunting with a bow for them. But then there's a rifle season for moose as well. There's a whole bunch of different things in Ontario. So I kind of have like as much as I can. And then for turkey, there's a bow season. And then shotgun obviously is a shorter season. Now turkeys, here you got to get permits for them here. I don't know how much longer that'll be. Before you needed a special license and a course to hunt turkeys, but now it's like you just go buy a permit, and they're getting so popular that I think it will be pretty well small game soon.
Can you just wait for me for a minute? I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Won't be long.
So what are kind of the costs of some of these licensing?
I just did mine. I did my outdoors card, which is what you needed in Ontario. I think it was like $11. Then I had a small games. I didn't have to get a fishing license because I'm a veteran, so I don't. In Ontario, veterans don't they don't need to buy a license, but that's usually like $40 or $50. And then if you want to get a deer tag, there's a certain price for a deer tag, and then there's a price to enter the draw. Same as moose. I bought my wolf tags. Wolf tags here, or you have to buy them. We do have a wolf around that may potentially become a nuisance. He moved in after the bear, so I bought that tag, and it was like $23 or $25. So it's small, but my bill was like $340 to get all my licenses renewed. And then that included my firearms renewal, which is every 5 years. So, and then I had lost that card. That's a surprise. I lose my wallet. I lose everything. So I lost that card somewhere. So that was $25. So, I mean, it all adds up in the end, but you're still cheaper than like if you get a successful hunt and you don't put all kinds of money in, like Remi said, like you can recoup that cost. So, I mean, think about you shoot a bunch of partridge, you get a bunch of fish, and you get, if you're lucky enough to get a moose draw, like you could take home here in Ontario, moose are quite large. We have some big moose. Like you could put in 400 or 500 pounds of meat in your freezer. And I mean, that's one cow. I mean, to purchase a whole cow, you're looking at a couple thousand, right? So,
but there's a bigger, I guess, chance risk and reward, I guess, with the whole.
Yeah, you might not get anything.
You may not get something, but at the same time,
like
you said, mentioned about that quality time with friends or family too, right? Like creating those memories and stuff like that too.
But then also, like with the cattle, I mean, if you didn't, get a moose, I mean, it's what, $2,000 or more to buy your cow or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you got to feed it. If there's any issues that come up, like
there's still risk.
There's still,
So like we have a big buck on the farm here, and he's huge. That's been around for a while, and I've been watching him the last couple of years. He's almost to the point where you can sit on the four-wheeler and look at them. And I mean, I thought, I have a beef going in my freezer, so I can't put a beef in my freezer for the winter and that deer.
Wow.
So, I mean,
There's another year.
another year. Yeah. Next
Tear down
year.
my fences.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last, I want to say like 2 years, the deer look healthier and larger than in previous years.
So I don't know if that's attributed around this area to the influx of people that are coming up to hunt that are doing, like in your area, Remi. I don't know. Like, I think rack stacker is like people spend more on rack stacker than I probably have in my pigs and corn. So they're feeding these guys year round. We sell a lot of hay from the farm here, and it goes to people that are feeding deer all year long. So they're pumping these animals up, right? That would have usually eaten scraps through the winter and got skinnier.
Wow.
They're getting really
I just
big.
noticed, I'm like, when I'm driving, I see them all the time in the morning, and I'm like, man, they're just so plump and they look good.
But
When-
birdseed.
Yeah,
It's amazing how many people feed birdseed, and that's what they're eating.
that's true.
Too,
I've seen
right?
that
So
too.
they're not. They don't have it hard anymore.
Yeah.
They used to look kind of mangled.
Yeah.
Like they would have patches of fur missing and thin, and that wasn't that long ago.
No, but we do have tick problems, and
Yeah.
Remi, I wanted to ask. That was one of my questions for myself, for you guys. Do you deal with the deer ticks and some of the diseases that are coming through now? Like these chronic wastings was a big thing out our way this year in the deer, and then in the moose they get that like brain worm or whatever else. So
when we hear about moose having like the brain worms or any brain issues, usually you'll see it right away that the moose is not normal. They'll be like walking in circle and not afraid, or usually we'll catch them when they're out of the season. You'll call the forest rangers and they'll be like, okay, just shoot him down and we'll go get it, and that's the end of it. The ticks or other disease for moose, it doesn't happen too often. I've heard stories about people, that got their moose, brought them to the butcher, and they had to just let the meat go because it was just not good. But we're talking about maybe 1 or 2 moose per year, and we don't really know if it's really caused by a sickness or if it's just because the weather is getting warmer, and by the time you get the moose out of the woods, it's so warm that sometimes you lose the meat.
yeah.
Because here it's the last full week of September.
Oh, okay.
This year is actually going to be the best year because it's from the 25th until the 30th of September.
Wow, that
Last
is
year-
really warm then.
Yeah, it is. But last year was even worse. It was from the 20th to the 24th.
Wow.
Because the first was this Saturday.
Yeah.
So that would have been the last full week, but it doesn't count because Saturday is the first. So we have to go back a week. So
Yeah.
from the 20th to the 24th, I think it was back in 2015, we went moose hunting, and on a Tuesday, we decided not to hunt. It was like plus 35 Celsius.
Wow.
We were just drinking beer and, playing washers, and like there was no way we were going to go hunt. On Friday, when we got our moose, it was snowing.
Yeah. We're like that this year. Our first week of deer season, there was hardly any deer shot around here, and that's because it was too warm. So nobody was going out, which I think is the responsible thing to do. You don't want to waste any part of the animal. So for us, like I know in my gang, if it was +3, +4, we might hunt, but if it went to +6, +7, we're not hunting. And that's mostly because my dad, being the butcher, would give us heck if we wasted anything, right? So especially, that's another topic too, I guess, is hunting with the appropriate sized rifle. A lot of people out here hunting with these great big 30-06s hunting deer, and they're hitting them 2 times or whatever. And I remember even as a kid, my dad would take me to go butcher deer, and you'd see them all shot up, and my dad would just say, well, I'm not bothering wasting my time here with that. Like you've ruined it. I think you really want to use the appropriate round for that animal. There's a comment I wanted to touch on before we go, though, before we move on, is Me and You Acres asked, does that cook out in the meat, or do you need to just get rid of it? So the ticks in the deer stay in the hide, so you don't really have to worry about that at all. But the chronic wastings, they'll do a testing for it, so you can bring it in our area. There's always like a weigh-in station or a donation, so they'll send it out. But you will see if it has something wrong with that animal, or you'll notice it acting really strange, and you don't want to eat that. If that's something that you don't mess with. Yeah.
But worms, you'd probably just end up cooking worms.
Yeah, if it's wormy or whatever, that's not really a problem. No, there's things that the ministry for our area sends out with your hunting package of like things to look for in your meat before you cook it. So it's probably the same where you guys are, eh? Like you get that pamphlet or whatever.
Yeah, you get some information about what to look for.
Yeah.
Like I said, moose is not that bad. Deer, I've never heard about anyone getting a deer that was not good. It could happen. I remember going deer hunting and being full of ticks myself. I had like to remove all my clothes and just
Oh no,
almost strip in the middle of the woods and just get rid of everything and put something else on. But it's not something that happens too often. It happened twice in 25 years. That I had to just look at every inches of my jacket to make sure there was no ticks. And but it doesn't happen. Like it's so rare. Like it's something you can take the gamble. Like it's not even a gamble. It's just you get it and you'll see right away if there's something wrong with the animal. You usually see it right away. Like you said, that the animal is going to be different. You'll see it with coyotes and bears and foxes. Like they'll come right to you, right? Like if they're coming right to you and they're not afraid, chances are they don't know what's going on. So then that's a pretty good sign that you shouldn't be eating them.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. Like same as in our area, you'll notice that something's off. Now in our area, we're allowed to bait just about anything. There's certain rules around it, but we had a nuisance bear. I did a little video on it, but we had a nuisance bear that kept tearing out all our fencing and the whole 9 yards. And eventually, like I don't believe in getting rid of a predator because as soon as one goes, a new one moves in. But we gave from when we processed our chickens, we gave those guts to the guts and the leftovers to our neighbor who was hunting bear. And he used them as bait, and he got that bear like almost right away. But when you start to hunt bear, you'll find if you're allowed to bait, they are a really reliable source. We know a lot of guys that hunt bear, and they seem to always get a bear every year. And you put a good amount of meat through it. I mean, I don't particularly like bear myself, but cooked right, it's good. Yeah.
And what happens here, the way we do it is we have like a little restaurant here where they have fries and stuff like that. So you'll have the oil that's used.
Yeah.
And in the spring, especially in the spring, that's the way that I was always told to do it. You just put some oil, and then the animal will walk. The bear will come and smell it. What happens is when they hibernate, they'll have like this little piece of poop that will plug their butthole to stop the rodents from going in. But when they wake up, they start eating. They don't want to eat something that's going to cause them issues, right? They want to eat something. They'll eat like the sap, maple sap or spruce sap or stuff like that just to get their stomach going. And if they find some oil like that, chances are they're going to go after it and they're going to walk around, spread the scent all over the place and bring all the other bears around to come to that spot. So that's the way we do things here. That's the trick I was told. That store will have like expired bread, muffins, and stuff like that, remains of fries or whatever that they can't sell. And they just put that next to the door, and whoever goes in first and can just go and grab it. You take that. I mean, it's free. And instead of just throwing it out, you give it to the bear. And they say it takes about 5 days for the bear to take the habit of knowing there's food there. It's safe to go. I can go. You just have to be quiet and of course, stay safe.
Yeah.
The bear will come out usually just before dark, and it's pretty much a free shot. And
Yeah.
like you said, it's pretty decent amount of meat. You get 100 to 200 pound of meat on a black bear,
Yeah.
roughly. Usually most like around 100 and 150, but you can get a pretty big one. And like you said, it's maybe not the best meat, but in survival mode, or if you really want to just eat for free, like right now the cost of food is crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I bought $100 of food today, and I had like 3 small bags. It's like
Yeah,
crazy.
almost nothing.
Same as
Yeah.
me. I couldn't believe it. And that's an awesome topic because in our area, I went to the store today, and on the grocery store, they said no filming, no photography, no videography, no
Wow.
nothing
Interesting.
on all the grocery stores. And I thought, well, are they ashamed of their price gouging or what's going on? Why don't they want people taking pictures of it,
And the funny
Yeah,
thing is,
I think so.
they're allowed to video you,
That's it.
like surveillance, right? So
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
I thought it was wild, $6.70 something for eggs. I thought that's crazy. Beef prices are through the roof. And it's not going to stop either. Like for those guys that are thinking maybe I should hunt instead of buying my beef this year, I can tell you we've been going to the sale barn. We've been looking at a few cattle. Cattle are selling alive, so still on the hoof. They still need to go to a feedlot for a few months. Then they got to go to the slaughterhouse, then the packing plant, then the distributor, then the store. But live on the hoof, they're going for about $3 a pound. So by the time it hits the store 6 months from now, that company will need to be getting $8,
Wow.
$9, maybe
boy.
$10 a pound for that beef.
Wow.
So that just gives you an idea of that curve of what grocery costs for red meat is going up. So hunting this year, I think, is going to be critical for anybody looking at that.
yeah, Dave had a comment for me that I should take up some hunting. So maybe we can team up because I've never done it before myself. So
He said
Yeah.
squirrels though.
oh,
Squirrels,
squirrels.
Squirrels.
I don't know about
Yeah.
squirrels, but
You could do.
well, he just
squirrels.
says Jason needs to go hunting.
No, there's a squirrel comment.
Oh yeah, he was talking about the small game is considered small game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I've never had, but I guess it's pretty good if you're used to it.
My dog loves squirrels, so
I don't know.
We've never eaten it.
I've never eaten squirrel,
Oh,
but
frog.
bullfrogs. There's a season in Ontario for bullfrogs, and yeah, I'm not ashamed to say it. I've eaten bullfrogs before. They are really good, to be honest.
do they taste like chicken?
Right.
My uncle, he would trick Jenny in that. And when we go bass
I'm
fishing,
sure.
whatever, you'd get bullfrogs, And he's like my uncle he's passed now, but he was an old school guy and he was hilarious. But like they grew up poor, so bullfrogs was on the diet for them when they grew up, right? Like, Depression era kind of thing. So anyway, he would do the bullfrogs up and everybody would say, I'm not eating that. But then he'd just walk by the fryer whenever we were doing up all the bass and all the fish that day and just throw it in. So then you never knew who was getting the bullfrog. Like somebody would eat it, but nobody knew who.
That's funny.
He was terrible. Yeah.
And Angie's saying it all tastes like chicken. If you put a lot of barbecue sauce on it, it all tastes the same.
Yeah,
That is true. Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
But it's the same for rabbit. I have rabbit here, and the first one I didn't do it pretty good, and the kids didn't really like it. The second one, I roasted it on the barbecue, and I didn't tell them, and they ate it, and they were like, "Wow, Dad, that chicken was good." That was rabbit. You know your favorite one, the white one? No.
Well, Jenny did the same for we had little cousins that were they didn't believe in wild game, and my mom was at one point,
She
so
doesn't like it.
she's not a big wild game fan. But my dad, we had all this moose and all this deer. Jenny learned how to cook it and kind of hide the flavors, and she just wouldn't tell them. And they'd all devour the dinner, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, that was so good!" But they didn't know they were eating a moose roast that night or whatever. They couldn't tell.
If you're not used to it, I guess you could taste the wild part of it. But when you were I was raised eating moose and deer,
Yeah.
and I went to buy a steak from the store that was beef, and I couldn't even eat it. Like it was just like plain no flavor. Like what? Why do people want to eat that? It doesn't taste anything. It's just
Yeah.
good.
that's like our beef too. I mean, we get spoiled because our beef it doesn't have any grain, so it tastes similar to wild game. Like it's got more leaner, it's a deeper, richer flavor. And then I buy something, or somebody cooks something for us, or you go to a restaurant, and I'm like, oh my god, like I just spent like $30 on this steak, and it's garbage. Like I'm just you get spoiled. You're right, Remi. It's definitely spoiled.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that comment there? I can't read it. Bella's added one in.
The slow cooked rabbit is good, and bear they say is good if the right cook does it. But I'm not a fan. I've heard tons on frogs bring good.
Yeah.
Being good, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, bullfrogs are definitely, it's worth a try if you want to do it anyway.
The bear is worth the fat.
Yeah. So
Because
yeah.
like the other products you get from it, it's worth it.
Yeah. And if you have pigs, you can always use your pork, your ground pork or whatever, to cut in with some of that venison or that bear or whatever else, or to add fat, to add a bit of flavor to it, and it helps. But with bear, as a kid, when we cut bear with my dad for people that they'd shoot it and they'd hire him to butcher it, and my job as a kid was to skin it, but Dad would cut it up, and they'd always say, "Oh, Tim, well, we want you to take a portion of it." Dad would take the roast, or like the outside round roast or whatever, and he'd make jerky out of it. Bear jerky is incredible. It's packed in high quality and protein, and it's soaked up the seasoning that you put it in, or the marinade, really well. So we always had bear jerky. It was really good.
That's something I would have to think of if I get one in the spring. Yeah. I love moose jerky. I have a dehydrator, and it's also a very good snack for the kids. I mean, you can bring a few strips to school, and it's somewhat healthy. I mean, it's healthier than most of the stuff they get at the store.
Yeah.
There's a question for you.
Question for me.
Tanned it.
I never tanned it. Like, we were always skinning them for other people that shot them, right? I mean, this is another point too. It's a pet peeve of mine. Like, when people are hunting in our area, they leave the hide on these animals. But that's not the right way to do it. Like, when you hunt an animal, especially in warmer temps, you skin that thing right away. Get that meat temperature cooled down as fast as possible, because the hide will insulate it and start rotting that meat. So we always skin right away. Like, as soon as you bring it, you eviscerate. So that means you take all the guts and stuff out, and you bring it back home. You hang it. You take the skin off. Right, get that meat cooled down as fast as possible. But I mean, everywhere it's done differently. In our area, I noticed it's a trend that people do. They leave the deer hide on it way too long, but it changes the taste of the meat too. So in bear, I've never tanned it. I know people that have sent them away to get tanned, but it's something that we looked at even for our beef cattle. It's almost impossible to find a tannery nowadays. We have a Highland hide that we want to get done. Jenny's got it salted, and we're not sure how it's going to work out. We're going to have to try and do it ourselves, because we couldn't find anyone remotely local or affordable that was willing to do it.
Just watch Mountain Man.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Tom Hoare is pretty much showing the whole way to do it.
Yeah, I love Tom Hoare. The guy was incredible. Jenny's going to do it with egg yolk, though. She's not going to. She didn't. No brains. Yeah. Yeah.
There's also hats for hides too.
Dan made a good point. Remi, I don't know about you, but I've, of all the animals I've shot and that, I've never really taken a photo with me next to them. I'm just not into it. But out here, it seems like that's all some people hunt for, is just a photo.
Well, we take pictures, but we take pictures even if it's a small one or a big one or a cow or I keep saying, like, people around here a lot of people will go hunt for the rack, for the monster.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
You can't eat the antlers.
Yeah.
Right. I'd rather go and get like a big cow, 400 or 500 pounds, than get a big bull, 700-800 pounds. Of course, you get more meat, but it's not as good.
That's right.
Yeah. I want to feed my family. I don't want to impress the community.
Exactly.
The thing here, they have those competitions at the like local radio station.
Yeah.
Where you can just, if you drive by, and now lately because of the warm temperatures, they are saying that if you can just bring the head, it's fine. But you go there, you show your moose, they take a picture of you with the moose, they put it on their website, and they put your name in a draw. And it's a whole week they're doing this. They have a bunch of sponsors. They are doing a giveaway for like a freezer, free handler arrangement, a knife from Pro Nature. Canadian Tire might be giving away like a nice gun, rifle, or they have all those kind of present. And it's something that's also different around here. Like Jack from Red's Homestead came moose hunting with us, and it's like when it's moose hunting season in New Brunswick, it's all you see, and you see so many people doing it. It's like you're kind of not even cool if you're not hunting. That's the kind of
Okay, that's how it's
feeling
gotten
you get.
here too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
think
all over
that-
the radio stations. It's all over, like everywhere you go. People are like, the stores are doing like specials for the hunters, special on beers, special on chips and crackers and snacks and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm all for it, sure, but I just I don't like losing sight of why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the family time and to put food in the freezer. Everything else is just what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to try to enjoy it as much as you can. I know some people don't like hurting animals, and that's fine.
Yeah,
You don't have to enjoy that aspect of it, but you can still go in the woods, take a walk, enjoy the nature. Um, it might be deer hunting season. You might see grouse. It might be moose hunting season. You might see deer. It's fun to see, even if it's not a hunting season for those animals. It's fun to see the wildlife. Um, it's always happening at least once a year. We go deer hunting and we step on a branch at some point and it cracks, and you see a grouse like leaving fast and like almost giving you a heart attack.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Driving
Yeah.
horseback with that.
Actually reminds me, I was going for a drive a couple weeks back because I was looking for a spot to go camping, and just down the road, anyways, one of the forestry roads, and there's about 2 or 3 deer just on the road, and I just started to drive slowly. They took off, and I just could have just parked my car just to watch, and there must have been a good 10 or 15 deer, almost 50 yards from where I was, just through the thick bush and the woods. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I find that you get to see so much of the woods in hunting season because you just sit there, and then the whole woods kind of comes to life. As the longer you sit, the more you see, and you're like, well, I wonder how much I miss when I'm just doing my day to day.
Yeah.
And
Bella on here, Kelly, she if she's still on here, she actually does hunting, her and her husband, and she's getting her family involved, her girls. And she actually showed me a video. She was hunting, and moose actually came out like super close right in front of her. And she, like, I couldn't imagine
was
being
About
in,
4 or 5 of them or something.
there, I think there might have been 3. Kelly can let us know how many
Yeah.
there were, but I couldn't imagine being that close. Like this, to me, they're just like majestic and large, and I'm just like, oh, I would love to just, be up on one of those like hunting
On the stand.
Yeah.
and just
stands,
watch. I would just love to watch, like, so I
I
don't know.
was
That was really cool.
I must have been maybe 14, 15 years old. It was just at the beginning when I started driving the ATV, and I went fishing with my little brother. He's 6 years younger than me, and we were fishing on that beaver dam. And you can imagine a beaver dam, like you're walking on it. There's a bunch of branches here and there, and if you fall on one side, you fall in the hole, and if you fall on the other side, you fall in the water. And it was not that deep, like it was not that wide, but it was long. It was maybe like 40, 50 feet long, but the pond itself was maybe like, I don't know, maybe 10 feet wide. And we were there fishing for about 10 minutes. We were almost at our limit. And suddenly all I hear is my brother yelling, "A moose!" And he starts running. I look at him and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he was looking for the key on the bike. Like, I'm sure if he found the key, he would have left me there.
Yeah.
When I looked back in front of me, the moose was about I'm gonna say 10 feet from me, but I'm sure it was even closer than that. It
Wow.
was a young bull right in front of me, and I was just like, okay, don't make any noise. Don't don't scare him off. I was just trying to reel in without hurting the moose with my hook. I'm like, okay, slowly. The moose just took some water, just
Wow.
walked right off. But it was just so funny, like to see my brother. I don't even know how he ran so fast. He was, maybe 8 years old. He ran on the beaver dam like nothing. Boom, he was gone, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, and I turned up, and the moose was right there. But it was fun. Like, it's something I'll always remember because he was right there, like right in front of me.
Well, this is Kelly here, Bella. It was her that had the moose come out, and she says there was 3 of them came out. And hunting the last 30 years of my life, I've never seen one. The noise they made coming through the bush, she was shaking, her heart pounding. The rest of it, like, what an adrenaline rush, right?
I have the same because we hunt with dogs, so anything that's in the bush is coming out. And we didn't have a bull tag because we had filled it that morning, and the cow and calf weren't close by, so I knew that whatever was coming out of the woods was going to be a deer or a bear or whatever. And Lily, our little cattle dog, was in the woods with the guys pushing, right? So they would push the animals towards us. And we were all set up on a ridge, and I was standing on top of my 4-wheeler. So my 4-wheeler has a box on the back. So I was quite high up there, I guess. Well, I'm not that tall, I guess, but high enough. And they come out of the woods, and the dogs were pushing them. So they come running out, and it just like, I heard crack, crack, crunch, boom, they're right in front of me. And I was looking up at that bull moose and the small cow behind me. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And I didn't have a tag, so it's not like I can shoot it, right?
Wow.
So I'm just like, hey, get out of here, bull, get out of here, bull. And he just wandered along, but he let me know, like, yeah, I'm moving because I'm going to move, but not because I have to.
Yeah.
Like,
That was the moment.
man, they were big. I was like, oh my God, these things are huge. Looking up at them, yeah.
That was the moment
They're
that
pretty
Rob
big
was on,
animals.
that the dogs bring to you.
Yeah, because
Like cattle dogs do that.
That's
Not beagles.
that same hunt, we
Wow.
chased that same guy out the next morning. Lily, being a cattle dog, she brought everything to you, right?
Wow.
Instead of like pushing it, she would herd it to you. Well, one of the people we had was a 13-year-old guy, okay? Ben, just a kid, first moose hunt. He's sitting on a stool, so it's just him in the woods and a stool. And Lily put that same bull moose, big moose, right to him. And the footprint from where it ran, he dropped the gun and run. And the footprint was right next to the stool. He's like, I'm never hunting moose again. That's it. I'm done. Yeah.
One of the things I like the most,
What's that?
especially when I go deer hunting, one of the things I like the most is you just go in the middle of the woods. I'll go with my GPS and my compass, and you walk some places and you stop and you think, like, there's probably never any single person in the world that's been right here.
Yeah.
Maybe there is, but chances are, like, it's this specific spot. Like, you go and you find some nice streams and some nice little caverns and caves, and it's always something new, something that nobody's ever been there before. It's fun when you think about it. But for me, like, I especially when I go deer hunting, I'll walk for a while and I'll get my exercise, and then I'll sit down, and like 2 minutes later I'm sleeping. So there could be a bunch of deers coming by, but yeah. And then I wake up.
These days you're gonna wake up and there'll be a bunch of deer around you sleeping too.
I'm the same way. Like, I that sun hits just right, and all of a sudden you just like, I'll just close my eyes for a minute. I'll listen. I'll hear
You'll
them.
listen.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
and you're out,
I'm
and
just
next thing you know,
Like 25 minutes later, you open your eyes. Oh, I fell asleep.
yeah.
You opened your eyes to wolves one time.
Yeah, one time I opened my eyes because I heard something, and I looked down, and there was wolves out there. I ran pretty quick that day.
Oh my.
My uncle seen me tearing across the field and he was laughing. He's like, well, I seen him cross over. He's like, I figured you were awake, but I guess not. yeah.
Wolves. We don't have wolves around here, and
They were
that's
fun.
the thing. Like the most dangerous thing during the hunting season would be coyotes, and even then, like it's not.
I was gonna say it'd probably be hunters,
Yeah.
or I should say irresponsible ones, maybe.
Yeah, that too. The
So
bad
we have brush wolves, and they get quite large.
Timberwolf.
And some people say timber wolves. I don't know. I've seen some big wolves, but never like timber wolf size. The one around the farm, we haven't seen him,
He's massive.
but his tracks are massive.
The size of my
Wow.
horse's hoof.
So we're wondering, what it is, but it's big. I'm hoping to get him on game camera to see. He hasn't harassed anything on the farm yet, so I don't plan on doing anything, but just in case. But yeah, so we do have large wolves, but coyotes are the most prevalent here that you'll run into in hunting season.
they're usually they won't attack humans, but there's always that odd one that maybe is like really really hungry and sick, and if there's a few ones around, maybe they will attack. But it's never really happened in my area. I've heard stories about people being attacked in Nova Scotia. All I can say is my dad is 65. I think he's turning 65 this summer, and he spent his whole life in the woods. He's never been scared about that kind of stuff. A couple of years back, we were moose hunting, and he just had a knee surgery, and he came running to the truck. I didn't have a tag. I didn't have a gun, and I figured I was going to go back to the truck. I was tired. I just see him coming out of the trail, running at me. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, where's your brother? He's in the road back there. Like, what's wrong? I heard a bunch of coyotes like howling at me, and I could see the shadows and hear them. And it's like, there was at least, he's saying it was at least 10 of them. Like, and you could hear them coming closer and closer. So he figured we're trying to get to him, but to him, like any other father would do, you're just thinking about your kids, and you just wanted to be sure that we were safe, and he came running. But when I saw him running that day, like, okay, something's wrong, because, like, first of all, I've never seen him running, and second of all, he's got knee surgery a few weeks ago. He's not supposed to run. But that kind of made me realize that, sometimes maybe the coyotes can be dangerous. Just be careful when you go out there in the woods.
Yeah.
Brazen is the word we use.
Brazen's a good word for it, Jenny said. Yeah, they are brazen around here, especially. They kind of push the boundaries of how close they are, even with us. They're not that scared of my dogs or anything. We've had instances. There's one here that I call him Limpy. He hangs around. He's basically on 3 legs because he must have got into it with the horses. So the horses put the boots to him. But they're a bit brazen. The coyotes are definitely braver. I don't think hunting, though, is something you need to be scared of in the woods. Like, there's not much that's fearful here. I mean, maybe in BC or Alberta, where you have big bears and large cats and stuff, like that might be a problem. But where we are, you're fairly safe.
I think we have some cougars, maybe, but they're very rare compared to being out, like you said, in BC and all that. So
Yeah, we do have lynx, bobcats. They say that we don't have any cougars, but I am like almost guaranteed that I saw one a few years back. So I'm guessing there are a few ones.
Yeah.
You
But
have fishers as well.
if we have what?
Fisher, like fisher cats.
Like Wolverine.
We have them
I don't
too.
think so. I don't
I
think
just meant like in New Brunswick, but
Well, they're the same with us, Remi. They say that there's no cougars or anything, but there's quite a few pictures that show up online every year or show up through the hunt camp gangs that we know of people seeing them or whatever. So I kind of tend to believe that there could be. And we know a story, like I know a few stories personally of somebody saying, well, I know there's cougars here because I've shot one and I called the ministry to come pick their tag up. So whether that's true or not, it could be just rumors. But
I mean, I've heard some stories of and who knows if they're true or not, but there was an overpopulation of porcupines, so they would try and bring in the fishers to try and depopulize the porcupines, but then the fishers eventually got over too much, and so they brought in the cougars to try and so there's a lot of, I think, interferences in that aspect.
That's like our turkey problems. They're issues too.
So I'm looking online, and they say that we do have some fishers in New Brunswick, but they're really, really, really rare.
Okay.
I've never
I know
seen.
we had one across the road just next door to us, and I know they're around, but I've only seen the one in the 7 or so years we've been here.
Where Dan's saying here at Highland Creek Road, that's where one of the pictures originated about 10 years ago. There was a picture of just a cat paw hanging down over a guy's trailer window. So the guy he took a picture of it, of the cougar's paw hanging over the window, and it was up on Highland Creek Road. So that could have been the same year that we seen that at our hunt camp. The picture anyway.
I know Palmer Rapids, someone I know there actually took a picture of a lynx walking down the road just 2 weeks ago.
There's lynx around, Lynx are they make a weird noise. Roy had them at his place. Really
nice
different,
noise.
What kind of noise?
It's like a screech.
It
It's
literally
really
sounds
weird.
like a woman screaming.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird.
What are those things they call in the woods? They say they're it's like a monster type thing. It's like a
Like a Sasquatch?
no, not a Sasquatch.
Yeti. I don't know. Jenny's from Newfoundland, so she's going to talk about the Newfoundland fairy stories.
These are the
No!
Newfoundland people over here.
I know I heard that lynx sound before when Kendra was outside and she was hearing that weird sound. I heard that at the same time, but I think it might have been Kendra freaked out.
That's the
They
worst
make a
part.
scream.
My hearing's getting worse and worse, and so now when I go in the woods or whatever or whatnot, somebody be like, "You hear that?" I'm like, "No, I hear nothing." Like I can't hear anything. So
Okay.
And it's funny. I don't know about you, but like the more you hunt, and the most time you spend in the woods, you get to see the animals and stuff before other people do. I went hunting with a buddy of mine, and he asked me, "Do you want to come hunting?" I'm like, "Sure." "Can you even see the grouse?" "Yeah, of course I can see the grouse." I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll go." We go there, and like, okay, well, we're gonna check on our sides of the road, and I'm looking, and I'm like, "There's one right there." And he's like, "How did you see that? I can't even see it. It's on my side." I get out of the truck, and I shoot him, and it's like, okay, I didn't even see the grouse, and it's like, okay, it's dead. It's behind the tree. But when you're raised hunting, like you can see those things that are not supposed to be there.
yeah, that's like Jenny says. You can't see the ketchup in the fridge, but you can spot a coyote from 300 yards away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the grouse in the top of a tree 200 feet away, but you can't see the ketchup in the fridge. Yeah.
You learn to read like some of the trails and stuff like that, and it translates into our ranching as well, because like, you know, we try to fence around those areas that are high density areas and stuff like that too, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, that brings the homesteading into it too. Like a lot of our fencing and where we do our chicken setups and that, we use the stuff we learned from hunting, like the natural game trails. We try and avoid those areas because we know that they're just going to keep knocking the fence down, or that if we put chickens on top of where the predator tracks are, then we're going to have chicken issues, and that's something that we've always considered.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because you have to. It's a good thing, I guess, that we know about hunting. We know about the animals. If you're going in the woods, or if you get lost, or if anything happens, you see a trail, chances are you'll know what kind of animals are going up and down that trail. Like someone said earlier, I think it was Dana that says that, like, you don't want to go face to face with Mama Bear and the cubs. If you know you're in a specific area where there's more bears, maybe be a little bit more careful.
That's
If you're walking in a moose trail, unless you're in the fall, then you should be safe. It's always good to know what kind of animals you have in your way. Like I know Tracy is in the States. I don't know what kind of animals he has down there. I wouldn't want to be hunting in Florida or in a place like that where you have to be careful about the alligators and the spiders and the snakes and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't even be able to sit down and wait for a deer to come. Like I'd be.
yeah.
We're gonna have to have Tracy up here to take care of some of our turkey problems.
Well, I wish we could go. If I could go hunt turkeys, I would. I would love to.
Yeah, it's something we might be able to put on because we've got an awful pile of them.
Or if
Like,
you want
There's
duck
a-
and geese and go to the other house.
we had so many last year. We planted some oats and peas in a section of the field. And they just took them all out. Like there was hardly anything left.
And still, it's what? It's only like one turkey per person, or
Yeah, it's one turkey per person here right now, but that's why I'd need like 10 guys. So then there'd be 10 people that we could take turkeys out.
yeah. And I'm guessing like a non-resident license is even more expensive, like everything else, right?
Yeah. But there's quite a few. Actually, there's a lot of Americans that hunt up my way. A lot of the camps are owned by Americans still
True.
from Pennsylvania, New York State, Vermont, Maine. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of cottagers from
Yeah.
the States.
And as much as I agree with everyone being able to hunt, you're bringing like somewhat a good point where you have too many turkeys. I get that people should be able to go hunt. Here we have draw for moose because there's not enough.
Yeah.
We have people coming from all over the world to come hunt moose, which is something that I can't say that I'm really against it, but I wish there would be maybe more tax for the people living here than for people coming from outside, especially that the non-resident people can know in February that their names came out, and we will only find out at the early July.
Yeah.
Give us much time to get prepared for moose hunting.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues that people have here. Like, let us know. We have to apply before, I think it's like June 5th.
Yeah.
Let us know then. Like it's a computer thing, right? It takes 2 seconds. Click start on the computer and end. Give us the names of whoever was drawn, and that's it. We'll have an extra month, or just do it like earlier in the season. It'd be fun to know in advance. We could go and find a spot and put salt and other bait. Get ready.
We're kind of the same here. Like it's frustrating with the new tag system because people can apply from wherever. And, you have moose problem, or you got like for us, it's moose. There's too many of them in the area. Or if you want a deer, you put in for the tag and you can't get it. But then somebody from Peterborough or Toronto or whatever applies and gets tags, and they're coming up to the area. They don't live there. It's not their home. It's nowhere near. They don't have it. And the excuse is, well, they can't hunt in their area. Well, they didn't take care of their ecosystem. So now they have nothing but suburbs. So why are they hunting out in ours, right? It's a bit frustrating.
Yeah. And then again, like I said earlier, I have to travel about 3 hours away to go hunt on someone else's property or someone else's land. And I totally agree with what you're saying, but it was my ancestors that did that. It wasn't me, and that's why I'm saying, like, I get they want to come, and I agree with them coming, but I think that it should be more managed in a way that people from local place should be able to hunt more than people from other areas.
That's right. Yeah.
Especially if someone from Ontario has a place to hunt moose, I don't think they should be worried about going in another spot to hunt moose. Like, why would you come to New Brunswick to hunt moose? Like, I get it's the economics behind it. it brings in a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. I get that. I would understand if someone from France wanted to come hunt black bears. They don't have black bears there. They want to get that, that hunt a shot. I'm okay with that. But someone that lives in Alaska, where they have black bears, they have more black bears than what we have here. Why would they want to come hunt here?
Yeah.
That's the only place I would maybe draw the line. But then again, it comes hard to differentiate everyone, and I get it would be difficult, but it's still.
Yeah, I just wish they would add in a local tag. So if you live in that area, your address is there, you live there 24/7 or whatever. Maybe you get an extra shot or an extra point towards a moose tag instead. That would be a nice addition.
Or an extra day, or an extra,
Yeah.
Start hunting a day before, something like that. It will make it worthwhile at least to be here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that was awesome so far. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
Kendra?
it went really well. Thanks for coming on, Remi. This was
my
great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm hoping maybe sometime if I ever get back down to New Brunswick, you can show me a good fishing spot to go.
Well, you're in the Miramichi area when you go, and that's the best place in the province. I just don't know much about the rules. I know there's a certain time of year you can't fish.
Yeah.
I know there's a time when it's pretty much guaranteed shot, but if you go anywhere at the beach, I think you're allowed to fish.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for joining, and everyone online. Thanks for joining. Next week, we'll have another live, but we're going to be having a guest speaker, Patrick, on to talk about off-grid life. So if you're interested in that, maybe bring your questions for Patrick about off-grid life and solar. He's been living off-grid for a bit, and I think it'll be another good live. So we're enjoying having all these other great Canadian YouTubers on here with us, and it's a great way to get to know one another, and maybe other people in the lives will get to know that there's other great Canadian YouTubers to connect with.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you passing on all your experience and your
it's been
knowledge
awesome.
too, Remi. It's great. I love gaining from all you guys for this kind of stuff. It helps us grow as well and make the right choices.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see each other in May at the conference.
That's right. We'll see you in
How many
May.
days?
I don't know. I'm guessing about 59, 50.
It's not long. Yeah. All right. Well, have a wonderful night, and I can't wait to see you at the conference.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again, everybody.
Take care,
Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.